Okay, so today at the request of Chiho, she asked me how I would memorize Romans 10:9. Once again, we are using the memory palace, and actually Chiho already made a drawing of her memory palace and numbered it. So the verse Romans 10:9 through 10 is gonna be, because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. So before we start, actually, everyone, please do not use this verse to prove to someone that they're Christians. Using this like, oh, did you confess that Jesus is Lord? And if they say yes, then, oh, you're a Christian. See, Romans 10:9 says so. That's not what the verse is saying. That's not how it should be used. So please stop using stuff like, oh, the sinner's prayer, or which I don't like anyways, the baptism, as a reason to encourage someone that, don't worry, they're Christian. That whole concept goes against the Bible anyways. That's why context is important. Study Romans 9, study the book of Romans, Romans 10, Paul, who, what, where, when, why. Who was Paul writing to? When was he writing to them? Why was he writing to them? I think it's important to memorize a summary of a chapter, or memorize other key verses like Romans 10:2, Romans 10:13 through 15. And most importantly, I like the core verses, Romans 10:17. Faith comes from hearing, hearing through the word of Christ. So because if you say that, then you're going to give that kind of false hope, I believe, for Christians who aren't Christians, or those who doubt. You don't want to focus on the things that they did one time, like they got baptized one time, they said the sinner's prayer, they asked Jesus into their heart one time, and say that, oh, you are saved, don't worry, kind of like that, because that's wrong. You got to focus on not what they did one time, but what Jesus did for them that one time, that he died on the cross for them, that he was raised, he was buried and raised. And, and most importantly, do they want to make Jesus their Lord, right? Do they want to love God? Do they want to love Jesus? Do they want to know him more? Do they want to do what he says? You got to share the gospel correctly, because that's how a person is going to be saved. Romans 10:17, faith comes from hearing through the word of Christ. But anyway, sorry about that. I didn't want to make this a long video, but okay, so back to the memory pass. So Romans 10:9. So Chiho made, I gotta share this screen, so let me share this. Chiho texted me this. So this is her memory palace. This is her room, and she numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on one side of the room, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the other side of the room. And you have to remember that, this is her memory palace, because she used this because she's familiar with her home. If you don't know what the memory palace is, this video is not going to make sense. So watch the link in the description. I always link this video on all my videos that I use memory palace, so that you can see what a memory palace is. The reason why I do this is basically to show you how I do it, or how it works, and maybe you can use it to, use it. You can use my images maybe to help you if you can't, create your own image. Like, what image do I use for because? Okay. So hopefully this encourages you to keep going. But main thing is, like, you have to use a location that you are familiar with. And then, so Chiho sent me hers. I've been to her home, so I know what it looks like. So I really understand and I've used her home to memorize other things as well. But I'm going to show you how I do it. All right. So Romans 10:9. So the first thing I would do is break it down. I've done this enough where I could just memorize Romans 10:9 on one location, and then Romans 10:10 on one location. But you got to start somewhere, and doing that, I did start like this, where I memorized one verse using a bunch of locations, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the verse so that it's easier. So number 1 is Charlie's bed, is because if you confess with your mouth. So on Charlie's bed, this location, I'm going to memorize this phrase. The next location, number 2, is her TV and media console, is where I'm going to memorize that Jesus is Lord. I'm going to store my image to memorize that. 3, and believe in your heart, and so forth. Okay. And then for verse 10, we're going to go to her second locations. So verse 10, the first phrase for with the heart, and then number 2, one believes and is justified. 3, 4, 5, so forth. Okay. So this is what I would do. Like I said, use your own images. If you can, those will stick better. This is just showing you how I would do it. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is, okay, how do I memorize Romans 10, 9 through 10? Romans is a Roman soldier for me. I actually use Russell Crowe because in Gladiator, he's every time I need to memorize the word Romans, I use my image is Russell Crowe from Gladiator. Okay, now how do I memorize 10 is I use the mnemonic major system. That's very kind of hard to do, but you got to learn it. If you want to memorize numbers, a list of numbers, all kinds of dates and whatever, learning the major system is going to help. So that's what I use. So 10 is dice. So there, right here, she didn't draw it, but there's like a doorway here. And that's one of the main concepts of the memory pass. You stand at the doorway and you go around and number things, right? So on here, I'm going to imagine the Roman soldier, Russell Crowe, Roman soldier, and he's going to roll a dice. Okay, and he's gonna roll a dice towards Charlie's bed just so I could connect it. And then 9 is a B. Okay, 9 is a B. So I'm gonna imagine the actual B, the buzzing B, picking up the dice, right? So that's my image for Romans 10, 9. Then I'm gonna go to the first location, Charlie's bed. I'm just gonna imagine Charlie sitting in this bed. Oh, it's her dog. Sorry, Charlie is her dog. Okay, so because, which is kind of cool because I already have an image of a bee. So B is gonna be carrying gauze, the gauze that you have to wrap your arm around with if you're hurt or something. Because is bee gauze. So B is carrying a gauze, or maybe he's wrapped around in gauze. I don't know, whatever you decide. For me, a bee is carrying a gauze. And the word if, how do I memorize that? If I don't have a picture, but I use sign language. I don't know sign language, but I learned some stuff. And if is this in sign language. So I imagine Charlie, okay, a bee comes and he lands on Charlie's head, and then he goes like this, like if you confess with your mouth. Now confess, I use confetti. And your mouth, like how do I connect it? Maybe Charlie is opening up his mouth and there's confetti that flies out of his mouth. Okay, so because, and if Charlie goes this, he opens his mouth and confetti comes out. Because if you confess with your mouth. Okay, then I go to the next section right here. 2, that Jesus is Lord. I'm going to memorize that Jesus is Lord. That is hat for me. I use a hat. That's my image for that. So on the TV screen, I imagine me maybe throwing a hat at the TV screen. Who catches it? Jesus. And then he puts on the hat and then he becomes Darth Vader. For my image for Lord is Darth Vader. I don't know why. It just works for me. For you, it could be somebody else. Maybe, I don't know, who looks like Lord or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, so that Jesus is Lord. So he puts on the hat, Jesus puts on the hat, and he becomes Darth Vader. That Jesus is Lord. And that's on the TV screen. So I imagine that like I'm watching a movie of that scene happening. Next one is, it's a mini fridge right here. And believe in your heart. And for me, I use an ant, like a little ant, except I imagine him a big ant, and he's opening up the mini fridge. And believe is a bee riding a leaf, like surfing on a leaf. A bee is surfing on a leaf, okay? And he goes inside the fridge and he goes into a heart. So heart for me is just a regular heart, pumping heart in there. It's kind of gross, weird. Like I said, the weirder it is, the more you'll memorize, okay? And believe in your heart. Then I'm gonna go to the next section. It's a sliding door, and this goes and it shows the outside of like her pool area, I think, something like that, right? That God raised him from the dead. Again, that will be a hat. And God for me is it's an image for myself, but it's someone wearing all these gold, like a gold armor, right? That's from a Japanese TV show, and they're called Gold Cross or whatever. Anyways, that's my image for God. I use that because I could do a lot of action with him, right? And I meant, so that he has a hat, God puts it on, and then he raises someone from the dead. So I'm going to imagine that I'm looking through her sliding door and I just see God raising someone from the dead. Just that image, okay, for that scene. And then for 5, the leather sofa, you will be saved. So you for me is, you could use a big U just sitting on the sofa, or on the sofa, it has that, was it Uncle Sam going, I want you, or something like that. You could see that posted on the leather or something. You, and then Will is my friend Will from sitting, or you could use Will Smith, whatever works for you. Will sitting on that couch next to the poster, so that you know it's in order. You will be saved. And he's eating a lifesaver. Or you could use a B giving him a lifesaver. So be lifesaver, saved. You will be saved. So that's the image that I just created to memorize that. So I'm going to go back to Charlie's bed, and that's number 1, because if you confess with your mouth, and what I'm doing, I'm imagining what's going on in these areas. So Charlie's bed, because if you confess with your mouth. 2, on the TV screen, that Jesus is Lord. 3, the mini fridge, ant is opening up. Believe. B, writing a leaf goes inside a heart. Believe in your heart. 4, that God raised him from the dead outside. And then 5, you see the Uncle Sam picture. You, and then Will Smith or your friend Will sitting there, and a B giving him a lifesaver. You will be saved. All right. That's verse 9. We'll go to the next one. The next one is verse 10, and Bachan's buffet. I just remember that there's like Bachan's picture here, I think, or just Bachan. Anyways, right here, it'll be for with the heart. 4 for me is, if you see my other video, it's an afro. So I can imagine Bachan's picture, and she has an afro. She has a 4. And then with is, this is with in sign language. So I can imagine her doing this in her picture, and then she opens it up and there's a heart, like a beating heart. For with the heart. I'll go to the next section. The next section is a fireplace. So in here, I imagine a 1. So if you use my memory peg system, a 1, it has a pencil. Pencil is 1 for me. You could use that, but you could just imagine a big 1 in the fireplace, and a bee riding a leaf again, and he's carrying a bee leaf, and he throws it to the other side and is justified. I use the word justified. For me, justice is always like, the justice is blind, what you call a statue or whatever. But that's in the fireplace as well. So the bee leaf is riding, and it lands on one of the measuring thing of not measuring things, it has nothing to do, but justice, justified, right? So the bee is going to that statue, the justified statue, or the justice is blind statue. Sorry, messing this up. But anyways, right? Then 3rd location, and with the mouth. So once again, an ant is playing a piano on here with his mouth. That's it. That's it. Bing, 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 bing. Okay. And with the mouth. I'm going to go to the next question. 1 confesses. So imagine a 1, like a big number 1, and then confetti goes down all over number 1. 1 confesses. Next, and is saved. On this bookcase, I just mentioned ant walking around, maybe small ants. And then is, I use Brada is, a singer, Hawaiian singer, and he's sitting on the bookcase. It's kind of heavy, and then he's heavy, so he's like sitting on it, and then he eats a lifesaver. Okay, so those are the images that I use. I just keep reminding myself these images all over. So I'll go again. 1, Bachan's buffet. What was it? She was a picture of her with the afro. She's saying with, and then she opened it, there's heart. For with the heart, I go to the fireplace. 1 believes and is justified. And then number 3, there's an ant playing a piano, blah, blah. Number 4, there's a 1 with confetti. 1 confesses. 5, and is saved. So one of the cool things about this, how you can review, you review backwards, right? So let me review this one. Like if I do this one, you're going to see that I might cheat or whatever. But let's go to 5. I'm going to go back. What was the 5 picture? Was Uncle Sam going, you will be saved. Number 4, that God with a hat, that God raised him from the dead. Mini fridge is and believe in your heart. 2, that Jesus is Lord. 1, because if you confess with your mouth. So this is one way that you can review it, right? You just keep doing it, every day, 1 hour, not 1 hour. Like after this, I'll review it an hour later and then see what worked. If the image didn't work, or if the story wasn't funny enough or good enough, I might create another one. But yeah, that's how I will memorize Romans 10:9 through 10:9, 10 verses 9 and 10. Okay, I hope this helps. Yeah, but and then just review. You have to review, okay? But this, using the memory palace, using the PEG system, using the major system, it just helps you better. Going back to not using this verse as encouragement to people that, new Christians or whatever. Yeah, just, I could give you like 2 other verses. For example, like Philippians 2:9. I drew a blank. What is Philippians 2:9? Okay, so this is a very good example. Okay, this is a very good example of how the memory palace is very efficient. If you don't put it somewhere, then I already know missions. Where I memorized Philippians 2:9 and 9 through 10, 11 is Mission Valley. They have a sanctuary for where the Japanese side worships. So on the piano, I memorized Philippians 2:9. So I go back there. And I go, okay, what was on that piano? Oh yeah, it was an afro. It was my cousin Yoji for this. And then he's seasoning the piano. So, and then right away, it comes up in my head. For this reason, God highly exalted him and gave him the name which is above every name. I'll go to the next location. So that at the name of Jesus, every knee will bow, those who are in heaven, on earth and under the earth. All right. So basically, what that verse is saying is that in the end, Jesus is going to be glorified, right? And who's in heaven, those who are in heaven, those on earth and under the earth, right? Everyone understands that Jesus is Lord, is going to understand Jesus is Lord, because he is the Lord. What matters is he your Lord? Do you want to do what he said? Is he your Lord is what matters. And that's what makes someone a Christian, right? And Jesus does that. Even Matthew 7:21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, right? He's going to say, many will say, Lord, Lord, did we not do this in your name? Did we not do this? And then Jesus is going to say, I never knew you, okay? So just, that's just my 2 cents, whatever. Anyways, just memorizing a verse doesn't mean anything. You got to know what God is saying through the verse so that you can know the true God, know yourself, encourage others, and so that you can share the gospel accurately. But yeah, I like how I think Got Question said it. Let me, you know what? I think I have it up somewhere. Let me see. Okay, Romans 10. So they did a whole thing and I put it down. I copied this somewhere. It says, to conclude, read the whole thing for God question, but Romans 10:9 through 10 is not establishing public confession as a prerequisite for salvation. Rather, it is asserting that when someone trusted Christ and subsequently confessed him as Lord, knowing that persecution was sure to come, that individual gave evidence of genuine salvation. Those who are saved will confess Christ as Lord because he has already instilled faith in their hearts. As with baptism and all good works, public confession is not the means of salvation. It is the evidence of salvation. Okay. Well, I hope this helped you. I hope it encourages you to keep memorizing scripture. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. But yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you.